Hi, it's Mark here from Barratts Music. I'm at AMAC 2014, the Musical Instrument Trade Show, and I'm here with Barry Hunn. Barry's come from the US to show us Deering Banjos today, and he's got some great insight to a fabulous instrument.
Thank you.
Barry, what are you holding there?
Well, I have our basic Goodtime banjo, and I wanted to just share a few things that are really important. We've discovered some amazing new things with banjos. We're using a 3-ply maple rim, and it's not just any maple. It's a maple that is used in the sides and the backs of all the best violins in the world. And this maple has a longer grain structure, and it's a little more flexible. So instead of being very,
like very nasal,
and like a lot of banjos are assumed to be, tinny, it helps open up the sound and make the banjo sound rounder and fuller. But there's a couple of other things that we've discovered in the last few years. Traditionally, the tailpiece, this part here, the tailpiece, has been made of brass or bronze.
Right.
The problem is that's a very musical metal. And so when you pluck the string and the tailpiece starts to vibrate, you have no control over what pitch it is, what tone it is. So what we did was we came up with, we started making a steel tailpiece, and it's a steel that it probably has a high lead or zinc content, something that makes it softer. And so it is acoustically dead, so it's very quiet. So instead of having a tailpiece singing along with your banjo, you are basically focusing all the string vibration and the string energy from the 3-ply rim. We did the same thing with this rod that runs through the back of the banjo. They used to be made of brass. And again, they were singing and bright sounding, which was terrible because it was always constantly vibrating. So these are the quiet metal pieces that we find have helped make our banjos clearer and purer sounding. When the orchestra tunes up and you start with one instrument and then all the 100 instruments, are playing, do you ever notice how when the 100 instruments are playing, it's one big sound? You're not hearing 100 individual instruments. Well, that's because each instrument has a very pure, clear sound, classical purity. These banjos have such a clear, pure tone that you can actually play these in a classical setting. And the concertmaster will not be wincing, and the other players won't be holding their nose or their ears, because the sound will blend beautifully with the other instruments, and yet when it's time to take a solo, they have the clarity and the projection to be able to reach out and have a nice distinct sound.
And this is the same sound ring that you use in all your banjos?
In point of fact, this is our lowest priced basic beginner banjo, which, by the way, every banjo that we produce with our name on it is made in our shop in Southern California. These are truly American made. And we make virtually every part of these banjos in-house. So we are the last American banjo maker that I'm aware of that actually steam bends all of these 3-ply rims, carves every neck, sets in every inlay. These are exotic hardwood inlays on this banjo. These aren't just some cheesy plastic. This is the real deal. But yes, this rim construction is used on banjos that cost $15,000, $60,000, $70,000. So when you're buying one of our banjos, basically, and you can tell your customers this, you're getting a banjo that is made to professional standards. And of course, in our $10,000 banjos, there are some other very nice things that change the sound quite a bit, but the basic concept of the banjo is a super high quality instrument, something that is very affordable but has a very bright, ringing, clear, easy to hear sound.
And this banjo is well under $1,000.
Yes.
So, a resonator? What?
Glad you asked. Let me trade banjos here. Okay. When the banjo first came out, it was exactly like this one. The original banjos were all open back, and they were played in the clawhammer style, which is, could you hold these for just one moment? Thank you. The clawhammer style is kind of a brushing, plucking sound. I know, it's irresistible.
Yes.
But around the turn of the 20th century, in the United States, a new style of music was being developed called Dixieland Jazz, and it was played with trumpets and trombones, and you're familiar with a brass player, you've probably played a lot of that kind of music. Well, those guys wanted an instrument to play chord melody, to play rhythm chords with the brass instruments. play with a flat pick, what back then was called a plectrum. So they made banjos by taking off the 5th string and leaving it the same length here, and they would play with a flat pick, so they didn't have the 5th string. But the problem was they needed more power, more volume. And when you hold the open back up against your body, some of the sound is absorbed by your body. But what they did was they made these reflectors. It's like a parabolic, curved shaped reflector. And what it does two things. It throws the sound forward out of the banjo. So the sound projects that way, and it's not as absorbed. The other thing it does, though, is that it creates a resonant frequency in the body, because it's now an enclosed space. So that resonant frequency has been altered over the years by like making the resonator a little deeper, a little shallower, mid-play. So let me show you another couple of approaches here too. One of the things that's ironic about all of this is that this banjo here is a classic bluegrass style banjo. But the irony is that this banjo is actually a product of the Dixieland Jazz banjo development. So the modern bluegrass player has the Dixieland Jazz players to thank for his banjo. The bluegrass style is usually played with 3 fingers with picks on the fingers. And I had an injury to my hand, so I'm only playing with 2 fingers, and I'm just making this up as I go. But anyway, this is sort of the classic bluegrass sound. Yes, and exactly, and it helps project in a totally acoustic environment. Now, today, we know with modern electronics, a person can put a pickup in an open back banjo and still have a tremendous, amount of volume. But when you're playing at home, or when you're playing with friends who have a bass fiddle or a violin or a dobro or a guitar, it is nice to have a little bit more projection and volume, acoustically, so you can enjoy playing and being heard without struggling, playing too hard and not being heard. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's fantastic. Thank you so much for your insights. This
Oh,
is brilliant.
Thank you so much for having me here in Australia. I've never been before, so this is just a huge treat.
That's great.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, come into Barratts and try out some Deering banjos and see what you think. Thanks so much.